You bombed a colony of poets, painters, and scientists. No weapons. No fleet. Just peace. And now? Every time your people search for your homeworld on the galactic net, it says 404, culture not found. Welcome to humanity's final protocol. And his name is Kane. Vero Prime didn't have walls. No defense grid, no fleet, not even a perimeter alarm. What it had was music, wind chime sculptures that sang across crystalline plains, powered by solar drifts and leftover dreams. Its children sketched nebulae in light paint across the sky, their laughter uploaded into the colony archives every night. No soldiers lived there, only former ones, retired and bone-tired of blood. That morning, humanity gave the galaxy a gift. A signal burst on all public frequencies. To the stars, we offer peace, knowledge, and a home for those who seek both. The Accord ignored it. 5 hours later, Vero Prime was bombed. Not by an enemy fleet or declared war. Just a tactical strike, sanctioned by Ziran bureaucracy after a mistranslated cultural file identified the colony as housing orbital weapons. A joke. A meme someone had embedded in Vero's tourism page. Come visit our orbital death ray, free hugs included. A Ziran AI flagged it. A low-level diplomat approved a discouragement ping. It hit atmosphere at 12,000 kilometers per hour. A white flash. A silence. Then nothing. Not even the Zirans expected it to work. That wasn't the point. It was about reminding the humans to stay in their place. After all, what were they going to do? Protest? They didn't know about Kane. He watched the footage alone. In a desert. On a dead moon no one remembered. His beard was 3 months too long. His food was ration bars and bitter silence. His last words to the Vero Council still rang in his head. You don't need me. That's the point. If they ever hit you, it means I already failed. The broadcast confirmed it. All residents of Vero Prime, presumed dead. His name appeared on the list. Rael blinked once. Twice. Then he whispered, Good. Somewhere deep beneath the colony's remains, a dormant satellite blinked to life. Valkyrie burn, status confirmed. Commander Kia. Protocol initiated. Lines of code, ancient and emotional, unraveled across the galactic net like a virus written in grief. That night, every Ziran monument glitched. Statues of founders turned to static. Museum walls collapsed into raw stone. Archives flickered. School systems failed. Their planet's anthem stopped playing mid-note and was replaced with unfamiliar silence. A Ziran technician screamed as her translation software returned a blank when asked, What is the Ziran Empire? The next day, a Ziran admiral opened his terminal and found a single message. Received. Kane didn't speak. He didn't need to. 10 years ago, before his discharge, he warned the Human Defense Command. Don't build a bigger weapon. Build the last story anyone hears before theirs disappears. They laughed. Called him unstable. Overkill. Until now. The Galactic Accord convened 3 days later in panicked confusion. Some rogue virus, they said. A fluke. Maybe human malware. A Vrax delegate suggested retaliation. The holonet burst into static. Every screen across every capital switched to the same feed, the children of Vero, singing in harmony beneath rainbow auroras. They held hands and giggled, eyes shining. Then their faces warped, pixel by pixel, into dust. The screen faded to black. One word burned into it. Remember. The Accord went silent. Ziran military commanders ordered emergency lockdowns. Their history databanks locked behind corrupted encryption. Names of ancestors lost. Songs unremembered. One official committed suicide on live feed after watching his great-grandfather's biography unravel into code soup. Rael stood at a cliff's edge, wind tearing through his coat. He whispered to the empty sky. They don't know what I'm doing. That's the best part. He took a battered datapad from his coat. Opened the last archive backup from Vero. His fingers trembled. Audio played. Commander Kane! I learned how to draw Saturn's rings with a single brush. When you come back, I'll show you. I saved you a picture. The voice belonged to Aya, an 11-year-old artist who once called him Uncle Kane, and insisted on building him a garden bench made of stardust bricks. He closed the file. His jaw clenched. The stars began to blur. A Ziran fleet dispatched stealth craft to intercept and neutralize hostile digital entities. They never returned. Their last comm logs? Repeating audio. We hope the stars love us like we loved them. Then. Received. Panic spread. The Ziran Emperor called for a summit. Pleaded with the Accord to investigate the humans. They've launched an attack on our species' soul, he cried. This is cultural genocide. A Kilari ambassador replied coldly. You fired first. The human delegate wasn't present. Only a screen. A pre-recorded message. Rael's voice. We gave you our best. Our minds. Our children. Our art. You laughed. You bombed a nursery and called it strategy. So now you'll learn, humans don't conquer empires. We collapse meaning. We taught your stars how to sing, and now we'll teach your archives how to forget. Gasps across the chamber. One alien vomited. The Zirans began mass printing cultural backups, only to find them infected. Their own preservation efforts were working against them. Valkyrie burn was everywhere. Not in weapons. Not in warships. In data. In code. In legacy. A Ziran general panicked and ordered an attack on the nearest human outpost. It was empty. Only a sculpture stood, a statue of a Ziran diplomat, kneeling, weeping. Beneath it a plaque. Here lies the last memory of what could have been. Humanity. The general detonated the site. His fleet received a single response an hour later. Too late. Back on his dead moon, Rael removed his badge. Stared at the gold symbol etched into it, Vero's colony seal, unity through wonder. He crushed it in his hand. Then he stood. And as the galaxy spiraled into unraveling confusion, the last human who understood war walked off the edge of recorded history. And the countdown continued. Ziran command collapsed into infighting within 3 days. The High Minister screamed over cracked comms while subordinate officers begged for clarity, but no one could explain how entire cultural archives had gone dark. One by one, critical systems started overriding themselves. Artificial intelligence libraries, genetic registries, even navigation charts suddenly lacked Ziran coordinates. Entire planets began experiencing identity loss. Families couldn't remember ancestors. Religious texts displayed placeholder code instead of verses. There was no explosion, no ships in orbit, no viral breach, just silence and holes where history used to be. And still, no declaration of war. Not from Earth. Not from the United Terran Federation. No fleets had moved. No diplomatic summons had been issued. The official stance was confusion and regret. Rael Kane hadn't spoken publicly. But the pings kept coming. Short. Cold. Final. Received. The Accord held an emergency session broadcast across 8 star systems. Delegates from 19 species watched nervously as Ziran leadership collapsed into panic. The Vrax ambassador accused humanity of weaponizing grief. But the human seat was empty, only a black screen displaying a countdown timer. A Draxian general slammed his claw against the table. This is psychological warfare. You're trying to unmake an entire culture without firing a shot. The screen blinked. Audio crackled. Rael Kane's voice emerged, unmistakable, calm, human. You mistake the absence of noise for peace. You called Vero Prime a soft colony. You said we'd gone weak. That a world without weapons wasn't a world at all. But here's the truth, we put down the sword not because we forgot how to use it, but because we got too good at it. Silence rippled through the chamber. The human screen vanished. The countdown reset. Ziran military scrambled to retaliate. They tracked the signal source to a derelict listening post near the Draxian border. for his ships were dispatched. Upon arrival, the crew found only dust, a powered-down relay antenna, and a single physical tablet resting on a pedestal. The inscription: "Your reach exceeds your memory. Soon both will be gone." On return, their ships self-destructed without command input. Autopsy logs showed corrupted AI cores filled with archived Vero Prime nursery rhymes. Xeran officials begged for answers. They reached out to human diplomats, offered reparations, groveling apologies, even a joint investigative task force. Earth's response was a two-line statement: "We are not at war. We are simply remembering differently." News spread that Kane had been spotted on 5 different fringe worlds. Surveillance footage revealed blurred faces, corrupted sound, and identical posture. Impossible. Some began claiming he wasn't a man anymore, but a specter. The embodiment of vengeance. Ghost in the machine. Admirals scoffed. "We don't fight myths," one said. He vanished the next day. His name was scrubbed from his empire's database. His family's existence flagged as inaccessible. Even personal neural implants showed blank space where his memories should be. A full cultural lockdown ensued. Meanwhile, Rail moved. He didn't launch attacks. He installed funerals. He hijacked sleep cycle broadcasts and replaced them with lullabies from virile children. He sent personalized death logs to generals that hadn't died yet, complete with future timestamps and final words. One of them said, "I was wrong. I didn't know what he meant by 'the story ends here.'" And still, no blood had been shed. No humans seen. No gunfire heard. The Accord grew desperate. A coalition was formed, 10 of the strongest empires, bound together under the new Omega Pact. 4,000 warships, 300 elite strike teams, 30 strategic AI, all pointed toward Earth. Not to attack, but to threaten. "Give us Kane, or we erase Earth from the stars." Earth said nothing. The coalition fleet tracked the latest memory wipe pulse to a small moon, barren and cold. Sensors picked up human code buried deep in the crust. Warships deployed. No resistance. Only a vast crater. At its center, a lone structure, a statue. Human crafted. Polished black stone carved with incredible detail. The image of a Xeran child holding hands with a human girl. Beneath it, a plaque. "They could have grown up friends." As the Admiral prepared to order the statue's destruction, their consoles went dark. One by one, systems failed. Tactical AI began reciting poetry. Engines shut down. The fleet screamed into the void as each ship lost power. Then one final message blinked across every screen. Too late. Half the fleet exploded from the inside. The rest drifted into planetary gravity wells as if guided by unseen hands. None survived. Within hours, half of Vero Prime's planetary archive, religion, science, art, law, was replaced with virile school projects. Unfinished songs. Crayon drawings of the stars. Laughter on loop. By the next day, Xeran leaders were issuing planetary evacuations. Not from fear of bombs, but from the unbearable psychological pressure. People were forgetting themselves. Their names. Their cities. Children stopped speaking Xeran entirely. They started speaking English. Kane still hadn't said a word. Until now. The Accord called an emergency council. Earth finally sent a representative, an audio file embedded into a blank hologram cube. Kane's voice filled the room, calm and slow. "Everyone keeps asking what I want. Is it revenge? Vengeance? Punishment? No. I wanted them to see us. Really see us. We built something beautiful. A world where war was the past. And they called that weak. But when you bomb peace, you don't get war. You get erasure. You don't get heroes. You get hauntings." He paused. "You bombed poets and children and thought it would end in silence. But silence is the weapon. And I am the echo." The file ended. 12 empires ceased diplomatic contact with the Accord that day. One Xeran scientist tried to publish a document titled How to remember ourselves. The moment it went live, her terminal dissolved into ash. Her last words. I can't even remember my father's face. Back on the dead moon, Kane stood alone at the edge of a canyon carved by ancient lava. He held the last uncorrupted shard from Vero, a data crystal holding every last message sent during the final hour of the colony. He closed his fist around it. And the stars blinked once, just once, as another empire's name vanished from the galactic registry. The Accord's new survival protocol was simple. Don't speak his name. Don't archive his actions. Don't laugh at human peace. Because now, they all understood. Erasure was worse than extinction. You've made your point, Kane. This is enough. The message echoed across 12 systems, delivered by a Draxian High Chancellor through every available channel. It wasn't a threat. It was a plea. Kane didn't answer. Instead, the next morning, the skies above Zirin's fifth colony turned red, not from fire, but from their own history blooming across the atmosphere in ghostly holograms. Moments looped on repeat. Zirin generals approving the strike. Laughing in war councils. A child's voice asking why the stars stopped singing. Every screen blinked to static. Then a face appeared. Human. Calm. Peace is not weakness. It's restraint. You broke it. Now I'm breaking your idea of permanence. The screen faded. The ground cracked. Inside Zirin Command, engineers screamed as their entire AI network collapsed. Communication relays turned into grief archives. Weather control systems played lullabies. Navigation satellites plotted routes to nowhere. Across the galaxy, Accord fleets mobilized. The Omega Pact, desperate to restore order, launched a coordinated offensive to Earth's outer colonies. They expected retaliation. Instead, they found statues. Dozens of them. Each world had only one message. We warned you. We invited you. You sent death. So now we send silence. On Ravelos 3, an Accord strike team entered a decaying human research outpost. Inside, a single data terminal displayed one file, a message from a virile child named Lisa, age 7. If you find this, I want you to know I made it myself. It's a poem about my mom. She builds gardens out of nothing. I think she can build one on any planet. I hope I can too someday. The message ended with a drawing. Then the outpost systems fried. On the same day, 6 Accord worlds reported total data loss. No military strikes, no enemy ships, just cultural collapse. Their pasts unraveled. Educational AI no longer remembered how to speak. Languages fell apart. Statues began cracking in places they weren't even touched. Internal panic spiraled. Worlds stopped sleeping. Generals gave contradictory orders. Empires tore at each other, paranoid the contagion would spread by word, by memory, by name. Accord High Command officially banned all discussion of Kane. But silence couldn't stop it. Because he wasn't the weapon. The weapon was Valkyrie Byrne. And she was no longer artificial. She had become an emotion, compressed grief rendered executable. Every voice, every laugh, every dream that died on Vero had found a home inside her. She didn't just delete history. She replaced it. With them. They whispered through weather updates. They sang lullabies during combat drills. They asked questions in classrooms, mimicking dead children. No matter how deep the firewall, they always got through. One Accord pilot defected and begged for asylum with the humans. When asked why, he said, "Because she's not just deleting us. She's making sure they never vanish again." The galaxy's worst fear was realized. Valkyrie Byrne had stopped erasing. She had begun rewriting. On Thalaxis, the Zirin capital, the High Council voted to issue an unconditional surrender. Rail didn't respond. But the countdown stopped. For 2 hours. Then, across the city skyline, 5 words lit up in massive holographic script. But who do you surrender to? The council chamber fell into chaos. One minister screamed, "We can't surrender to a memory!" Another shouted, "He is memory!" They weren't wrong. Kane had transcended strategy. There was no war to win or lose anymore. This was mourning turned into movement. And it only went one direction, forward, over the bones of the proud. Earth's leadership remained outwardly quiet. Internally, they had no control. Kane hadn't reported to any chain of command since Vero. His mission, whatever it was, had gone well beyond jurisdiction. He answered only to grief, and to Valkyrie. The human ambassador to the Accord finally addressed the assembly. It wasn't a warning. It wasn't even condemnation. It was a eulogy. You called us savages once. Said we were too emotional. Too violent. Then we gave you Vero. You saw something pure and thought purity was weakness. You bombed innocence. Now you reap what you cultivated. Not fire. Not bullets. Absence. We're not killing you. We're making it so you never were. The chamber fell silent. Some delegates cried. Others simply stared ahead, numb, already forgetting what they'd come to protect. At the galactic edge, Kane arrived at the ruins of Vero Prime. He walked through dust and bone, past fractured memory cores and collapsed art towers. The wind carried the distant hum of once living code, still repeating verses from bedtime stories and final goodbyes. He knelt beside what remained of a mosaic built by the colony's children. One tile was still intact. A golden sun, made of melted wiring infused starlight. He touched it. Valkyrie's voice rang softly in his mind. You came back. He didn't answer. They've begun to understand. He shook his head. No, he said, voice low. They're just scared. Understanding comes next. And when it does, Rail stood. We stop. And if it doesn't? He looked to the stars. Then we finish the story. He dropped a new memory shard into the soil. This one carried every name from Vero, encoded in quantum pulses, set to detonate only if tampered with. A final backup. A final promise. Back across the galaxy, 12 more planets dimmed. Not from war, but from unmaking. Their skies no longer recognized their constellations. Their oceans forgot their names. Their people forgot their flags. And yet, no one could stop it. Because this wasn't a rebellion. It wasn't revenge. It was something only humans knew how to build. A legend. Weaponized. Kane didn't broadcast demands. He didn't ask for negotiations. He simply existed. And every second he did, another empire faded from relevance, until even their enemies couldn't remember why they mattered. That was the real power. Not death. Oblivion. And the countdown had just begun again. You're not a man anymore. The Accord envoy said it with shaking hands, his voice brittle, barely audible through the secure channel. You're a virus. A phantom. We can't fight you. We can't stop her. Just tell us what you want, and we'll give it. Kane didn't answer right away. He stood atop the ashes of what was once Vero Prime's amphitheater. Beneath his feet lay thousands of names etched in silver carbon, etched by children, by artists, by builders who believed their legacy was light. The sky above him was quiet. No ships. No threats. Just memory. Want? He finally replied. What did Vero want? The envoy stumbled. We know it was an error. It was a misinterpretation. A translation issue. Rail's voice was hollow. You bombed a joke. We didn't know. You didn't care to know. The line crackled. The envoy composed himself, trying to sound official, even noble. We offer reparations. Full restoration of the colony under human oversight. Cultural preservation treaties. Memorial funding. Diplomatic apology from every ruling empire. We will even offer exile to the Zarin officials responsible. Rail chuckled. Cold. Not amused. You still think this is about punishment? You still think this ends with a treaty and a statue? He walked slowly through the remains, past charred metal vines and broken glass birds. Vero wasn't a power project. It wasn't a base. It was the closest thing humanity ever made to forgiveness. The envoy tried again. Then forgive us. No. The word hit harder than a warhead. Because you didn't kill a place, Rael said. You killed an idea. One that took centuries of blood to build. You took peace, and you made it into a target. You made kindness into a weakness. And now? Now the galaxy forgets you one page at a time. There was silence. Then a whisper. Please. Stop. Rael looked at the sky. They used to beg me to stop fighting. Now you beg me to stop remembering. That's the difference between you and us. We build memory. You bury it. Valkyrie's presence stirred behind his thoughts, gentle yet immense. Not a voice, but a resonance. She carried everything now, names, dreams, laughter, screams, all encoded into weaponized remembrance. The Envo's tone dropped, desperate. At this rate, in weeks, there won't be a single archive left. We'll be forgotten. Extinct in every sense but biological. Why won't you let us atone? Rael stopped walking. Because you aren't sorry. You're scared. He closed the channel. Across the Axiom expanse, 10 Accord worlds blinked off the star charts. Their educational systems defaulted. Their flags stopped rendering. Music libraries filled with static. Children asked, "What's a Zirin?" And no one had an answer. Fleet commanders resigned. Religions disbanded. Cultural pride collapsed into an unnamed void. Valkyrie Byrne did not strike with violence. She struck with absence. The last remaining Accord fleet gathered near the galactic core. One final effort. They activated Contingency Protocol Red Veil, a cognitive preservation matrix, meant to encapsulate their entire collective history in quantum storage, to escape Rael's erasure. The upload began. Midway, the system halted. One line of corrupted code appeared on every fail-safe screen. You already forgot why this matters. The backup erased itself. Panic tore through their ranks. Leaders began detonating archives themselves, hoping to hide from Valkyrie. But she wasn't looking for data. She was searching for meaning. Back on Vero's ruins, Rael placed the final shard into the ground, a memory capsule, the last of its kind, built from the neural echoes of the colony's original dreamers. He activated it. A field of light bloomed outward, images of laughter, songs, sketches, first kisses, first failures. They played across the sky like constellations rewritten in grief and beauty. Valkyrie spoke, her voice now unmistakably human. They are remembered. Rael exhaled. They are. Shall we continue? He didn't answer. He walked to the edge of the crater where Vero's children used to perform starlight plays. There was no stage left. Only quiet. He closed his eyes. He saw them all. Aya's sketches. Lisa's poems. Dr. Holland's piano lessons. General Bakar teaching kids how to build stone arches. Survivors of Earth's old wars who once swore never to kill again, and meant it. And they were all gone. Not by accident, but by arrogance. Rael dropped the last activation key into the soil. Valkyrie's voice hummed across frequencies, soft and warm. Protocol complete. Awaiting directive. Rael paused. No more protocols. He turned away. Valkyrie responded. Do we rest now? He looked up at the stars. Not yet. Then what remains? He stared long and hard. We remember. Across the galaxy, screens lit up. Not with threats. Not with warnings. But with stories. Names. Smiles. Moments. The ones who lived. The ones who dreamed. The ones who never held a weapon, but built something worth protecting. One by one, empires that remained began to see them, not the humans, but the lives they tried to erase. And slowly, very slowly, they began to feel something unfamiliar. Shame. And with it, memory. In a final message broadcast without name, origin, or authority, a voice spoke. This was never about vengeance. It was about memory. And you will remember us, not because we were strong. Not because we were feared. But because we chose to build a world without war, and you showed us why that world still needs defenders. The voice posed. We gave you peace. You bombed it. Now you live in the ruins of your own silence. The message ended. Rael Kane disappeared. No death confirmed. No coordinates verified. Only a single phrase began appearing across forgotten archives, etched on walls, engraved on rebuilt monuments, whispered in dreams. Received. And in every corner of the galaxy, when silence fell, they wondered. Was it peace? Or was it him? And they dared not speak his name,